Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode here from the lovely Grunt Foundation studio in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm Will Wisner, the Executive Director at the Grunt Foundation, and joining me today is our Director of Development and Digital Strategy, Miss Janae Sergio. How you doing, Janae? Thanks for jumping on.
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to this eventful live that we're going to be having today.
Yeah, we've got something a little special. We've got, it's Giving Tuesday, so it's kind of like the weird holiday of the nonprofit world. So we are in our Festivus poll, so to speak, coming to folks hat in hand and asking for their thoughtful consideration to support the work of our great foundation here. And we've got an end-of-year video that is releasing today. It's about 12 minutes long, so it's a good, long, lengthy video that tells a whole lot about what we do. And we want as many people to see that content as we can, but we know that, hey, 12 minutes is a bit of an investment of time in today's reality of social media. So kind of what's the idea here? What are we wanting to get at?
We are going to break down our year in review so that we can share with our audience the work that we've done over the past year, show where your contributions have gone. We'll kind of go over it. We'll discuss it a little bit, share some behind the scenes memories and information about the impact that our work has had. And then we're going to, ask that you consider contributing to Grunt Foundation so that we can carry on this mission into 2026 and beyond.
That's right. And this is within mind, and given that this is a little bit lengthy for social media, we are going to be breaking this thing down into multiple episodes today. So little bite-sized chunks and some good strolls down memory lane as we go over each one of those. So before we get right into this first video, we'd like to ask everybody to kindly pay us a visit over at gruntstylefoundation.org/donate. And start kicking off also our annual appeal. And during our annual appeal time of the year, that's where we are trying to raise money to fund the operations of the organization. And so, the average that they say you're supposed to shoot for in the nonprofit world for that is $350, which breaks down to about $30 a month. People could do that if they are so inclined over at gruntstylefoundation.org, and hopefully we will earn your patronage. And if we haven't moved you there yet, hopefully after we get done watching all these videos today, you'll understand what we do a little bit better and maybe feel a little more compelled. So, David, you want to go ahead and start off that first video?
A bit of a different setting than I'm normally in.
Dope. This is nice.
This is quite nice. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the new Grunt Style Foundation podcast set, and you're going to be seeing a lot of content coming out of here, and you're going to be the first one, buddy.
Thank you. I'm honored.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our inaugural outing here of the Irreverent Warriors Fun Fridays Power Hour.
The suicide rate continues to climb and the amount of deaths continue to climb. And that's why I feel like the whole community of IW is starting to say, we need to primarily focus on these healing modalities and these different things that are going to help veterans heal and to educate people on what all is available other than pharmaceuticals and just talk therapy.
So there we go, clip number 1 in the hole. So tooting our little horn there a little bit about showing off what we've built over this past year, and we're very proud of it. We're doing an awful lot of work out of this studio, and someone that spends a good bit of time talking to cameras, Janae. I know you've been in our studio before. What's your thoughts? Did we hit the bar with what we're shooting for? Or?
Nailed it. It's so important to have a space that feels welcoming and that feels inviting for our guests as they come in and they share these challenging topics. It's fun to watch the throwback of the year and how the studio is built, and just to see all of the incredible guests that we've had in that space and the memories that have already been made in such a short amount of time. I can only imagine, the memories that we're going to be making going forward with future guests as well, and some repeat.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And, it's important to talk about the studio. People think sometimes, why does, a nonprofit engage in podcasting? It's kind of almost part of doing business anymore with most businesses, not just nonprofits. But, I thought we'd spend a little bit of time talking about some of the benefits that have come from this kind of work. And this studio is really part of the larger strategy of how we deploy our message and get that word out, because that's something that we learned back during the battle of what was to become the PACT Act. We had the hardest time raising that issue into the public consciousness. And, one of the buzzwords that always, has irritated me since those early days is the phrase systemic momentum. Because when we were trying desperately to get anybody to listen to us, whether it was the VSOs in D.C. even, or the elected representatives and senators in the Congress, they kept telling us the same thing. Well, there's just not enough awareness on this issue. And even down to the point of just being grotesque about it and saying, this isn't an issue of, blood and guts and horrible, disfigurements or anything like that. So it's not at the tip of the public mind. And of course, the issue was regarding burn pits and the toxic exposure illnesses, for those not familiar with what the PACT Act was. But so we had to go out and raise that awareness. And how do you do that? Especially at that time, I was on the board of directors for Grunt, Burn Pits 360, and we were trying desperately to get that word out. And once we got Grunt Style engaged to help us out, to started that first big episode where we brought Jon Stewart, the comedian, in to help. That struck lightning right there. It hit right on the target and started that conversation moving in ways that we had been unable to do that in times past. So, and right on cue, I think we've got, looks like Tim Jensen's joining us.
Perfect timing. Talk about a powerful voice.
Good timing.
In our community, right? There we are.
Well,
Oh,
hey,
God,
Tim.
so close. So close. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Thanks for joining the live stream, man. I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
We're just talking about the new studio and why this is an important part of the work that we do here at the Grunt Style Foundation. And I was just telling the story of how hard it was to raise the buzzword we all hate, systemic momentum, and raise the awareness of the issue into the public consciousness to where Congress felt like they had license to act. Do you have any thoughts on that part of that? I mean, I'm sure you remember those days well.
Are we talking about the PACT Act, where we had a bunch of congressmen?
Yeah, PACT Act.
That we were playing games with veterans' lives. I remember that.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're highlighting too, Tim, is just the importance of having the studio for the Grunt Style Foundation and being able to really expand our reach, right? We can go into these spaces and we can testify, or we can go to spaces where we speak at conferences, right? And maybe you get an audience of 100 or 500, but with those doors closed and no cameras on, how far is that going to go, and how much impact could that have? But when you have an opportunity like this, where you have a studio that can reach millions of people and you can get that message out far and wide, I think that, there's a little bit more of an inclination to take action on some of these issues that we're raising awareness on. And we've seen it, not just with the PAC Act, but also with some of the narrative that we've seen from, Secretary Doug Collins, and some of the other legislators that we've worked with. They've seen our work. They've seen the podcasts that we've had here. And so we're just kind of highlighting how important it is to have a studio like this and to be able to bring these voices forward.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. I think we all know, right, that there's nothing more powerful than the human word, right? The ability to do good storytelling. And that's really how we won the day when it came down to the PACT Act, right? I see Leroy Torres, Rosie in the chats, Will, a lot of us were on that road for a long time. Some people, Will, Rosie, Leroy, longer than I, that were really trying to bring a subject matter to, the attention of Congress, on something that mostly nobody knew anything about, right? Nobody knew that the burning piles of garbage, this is a head scratcher, but nobody knew that the burning piles of garbage that we're all living next to was going to come back and bite us in the ass and, be presenting some of the most absurd cancers we can possibly think of to this community. But that's what happened. And, what we had to do over that time period was raise the alarm and get as many people educated as possible to raise the awareness of the total population, that then we can start the constructive conversations of how do we fix this. And that was hard, right? But the ability to reach people in this new environment that we live in, this digital age that, you can turn this camera on anytime and, reach hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, we had to leverage that tool to really get into the homes of America, right? Because, I still feel today that this is a dinner table conversation. And the reason why it's a dinner table conversation is that it's the husbands and wives, it is the fathers and mothers of Americans today that are sending their children to the American military. And that is, a dinner table conversation of talking about some of these exposures, right? We've seen, over the years what, happened to the Vietnam cohort, right? And it took nearly 30 years 30 years to acknowledge the chemicals that they were spraying on those individuals, back in the late 60s, early 70s. We acted a little bit faster this go around, on the PACT Act stuff because of the technologies that are available to us today. I think, had the veterans had access to mass distribution like we do today in the Vietnam era, Agent Orange and all those that died from it afterwards, trying to figure out what the hell they had, that probably would never have happened. But we learn, right? And we try not
Absolutely, and it's that lesson is what is forming our strategy here as we do our work inside of Grunt Style Foundation. Back in those days when they were telling us to go out and build that systemic momentum and raise the awareness, we had dedication. We had people that, that was a battle that was not led by career people, politicians, lobbyists, activists. These were the actual families and the veterans themselves that were suffering and in some instances dying, and it was up to them to get that message out. And they had a story that you cannot script, you can't write it, it's not a marketing ploy. It's authenticity, and it was really when Rosie and you and I used to get together and do, the old gaslighting podcast that morphed later into gaslighting the warfighter as we got into the PACT Act battle. And then the MTech part came about as a virtual conference. And, I really think that was the tipping point moment, was that build up to that MTech conference and then everything that happened after that. And so we've learned how to action and make use of these resources and these communication tools. And so now in our foundation, our objective here is to use those same strategies to raise awareness on incredibly important issues. So right now, our main all-in objective is raising awareness on the scourge of veteran suicide. And there's so many nuances to that. And I don't know that there's anybody in this country that doesn't already understand that at least 22 veterans a day are taking their own lives. But I don't know that people understand all the details that go into that story that make that problem what it is. And so we have an obligation to raise that awareness, sound that alarm, and tell people about it. And we're doing that in some creative ways. And since this is Giving Tuesday, we are wanting to not only get our message out, but also hopefully spread our word and also receive funds that are coming back in to support that mission. And so, Tim, I know that Grunt Style is dropping a special T-shirt today, and the proceeds of that shirt will be coming in to support the work of the foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about it? I think we're going to bring up an image of it here on the screen, if you can talk us through it.
I would love nothing more, because there is no bigger fight that, and I'm a fighter. I like getting into fights. I was a bouncer for 7 years. It was my gig. That was my jam. And my jam today is fighting, the biggest, gorilla in the room that nobody wants to, address. Nobody wants to look him in the eyes. Nobody wants to spit in its face. And that's big pharma, right? There is more evidence that points to big pharma and the pharmaceutical companies using veterans as a test bed. And there's decades worth of evidence that shows that this is the case, right? The most recent one being the Suboxone, right? The big opioid drug, right? Well, they perfected Suboxone on veterans inside the VA. Guys, like I'm tired of watching, and I'm sure all of us are tired of watching our brothers and sisters being used as test subjects, being told up and down, left and right that our problems are in our head. It's immoral. It's all these things, but what it really is, and what I'm holding in my hand right here is exactly our perspective on it. It is 13 pages of overprescribing and the dangers that come along with that. And before I jumped on, what was taking me a little bit long was I read this entire thing for camera. We're going to put it out there for you guys so everybody knows exactly what we are submitting to Congress, because this is transparent. There's no reason to be hiding and cloaked in dark rooms talking about this stuff. It needs to be exposed into the sunlight. It needs to be eradicated and dissolved immediately, because like I'm tired of watching, my friends, the people that I went to combat with, take their life because they're trying to find relief in something. And when they find that relief, or how it's being given to them when they go to the VA, it comes in the form of a little pill that they have to take 2 to 3 times a day, and increasing their suicidal ideations by nearly 50+%. So, like, this is wrong. And it's been going on for far too long. This is something that can be completely solved today. I'm not over exaggerating. It could be solved today. It would take Doug Collins and his fast talking mouth to sign a document today that acknowledges informed signatory consent. We don't have to go through the performance of trying to get this bill that we have up on Capitol Hill right now, sponsored by Representative Bergman and others. We don't have to go through any of that trash, right? Because here's what we figured out with the PACT Act. It takes 15 years to pass anything in this country. 15 years.
Right.
Stupid. Like, they were hoping that half of us would be dead by the time that the PACT Act was put in the law. Well,
That is
we
my
beat
opinion as well.
right? And just like we can beat them on this subject, they want us all dead, right? Because they don't want to pay benefits. And I know I'm being over the top, but it needs to be over the top. You want to know why, my friends? 155,000 of us have taken their lives. That could be your brother. That could be your sister. That could be your son, your daughter. That could be anybody that you know being given this shit and these prescriptive pills that are just destroying lives. You could be Mark Miller, where you walk in and you're just saying, I have a down day, and they're saying, well, you have long-standing depression. Here's some Seroquel, without even looking at your medical history. That's what's happening. And the VA has the ability to control this. They could stop this today, right now. The Office of Mental Health could stop this right now.
I find it interesting too, Tim, that you mentioned the VA could stop this right now because, Secretary Doug Collins has been on his around the world tour. We've met him in person, and he has yet to sit down for an interview with any of us.
Well, because we're not water carrying individuals that are going to carry a message. I'm not that person.
Yep, they pick and choose, and that's the importance of this studio. Is because we're elevating these issues. They are picking and choosing who they're allowing to be out in front, even at this testimony, right? The testimony that's this week. Who's in the room? They're picking and choosing who gets their voice heard. And so us creating this studio, we're rejecting that. We're rejecting that, and we're saying, you know what? That's fine. We'll create our own space. We'll create our own space, and we'll make sure that these voices and these issues are elevated. And that's the importance of this studio. And, we're not just bringing people who are part of the Grunt Foundation in. We're bringing our community partners in as well, who are also out there, putting in the hard work and not getting their voices heard either. And we're able to get their voices out to millions as well, right?
Yeah. The one thing that I'm extraordinarily proud of, one being, members of the team along the likes of you, both Janae and Will, and many of the members of here at the Grunt Style team, is that, we get this chance that we can just do it. Just do it, right? And like, we don't have to have any fear. We don't have to have any worry about retribution, right? Because it needs to be done, right? These conversations need to be had. They are tough conversations. I've talked about it on several podcasts throughout the day today. These are not the sexy conversations. We're not out there driving great cars and blowing things up, and like, we could be doing all that stuff, but then I would be overlooking the fact that my best friend took his life because he wanted to quit smoking and went to the VA and killed himself because he was on Wellbutrin. And I'll never be able to have another conversation with my fucking friend again. I'm not doing that anymore. And we have a voice now. We have, Grunt Style has created over 11 million customers. 11 million customers. Nobody else has that. And, we're not afraid to leverage our audience. We're not afraid to leverage, the things that are important to have the conversations that need to be had, right? Because, the longest conversation that's been happening in the veteran space is the veteran suicide. And it's been going on for 15 plus years, right? And if you were, doing your 22 push-ups a day, you'd be big as Chef Rush right now, because you'd have arms as big as tree trunks. Because you'd
I
be the
tried to
most.
join him. I tried to join him on push-ups. I
Well,
could do Chef Rush he's a beast.
So all of that is true. That is why we are doing what we are doing. And if you had not ever heard any form of that message that Tim and Janae and I just laid down regarding this issue of overprescriptions of psychotropic medications that come along with the side effect of increased suicidal ideation, now you have. And that's what we're here to do. And if you want to help us out, you can do that by spreading the message. And bring that shirt image there back up, David. You can get this wonderful Fuck Big Pharma t-shirt at gruntstyle.com. And the proceeds of the Fuck Big Pharma t-shirt will go to support the work here of the Grunt Style Foundation. And we'll be back again today. We're going to be doing 3 more live streams today where we talk about all the things we've done over the last year and continue to showcase the video that we have rolling out today. And again, run over to gruntstyle.com and grab that t-shirt and help support the work of the mission of the Grunt Style Foundation. And if you are so inclined, if we've convinced you yet, head over to gruntstylefoundation.org/donate. We'd ask that you consider becoming an annual appeal donor for $350. That breaks down to about $30 a month. You could do $30 a month, less than $1 a day. You could help support the work here of the Grunt Style Foundation. And we will see everybody on our next live stream. So keep your eyes peeled and look for that notification that we're going live. We've got 3 more episodes to go. Janae, Tim, thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next run.
Thank you.
Take care.
Toodaloo.